Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy is a critical piece of civil rights history. Born as Michael Luther King Jr. in January 15, 1929, but later changing his name to Martin. Growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, he attended Booker T. Washington High School and was said to be a bright student enrolling in college at the age of 15. While in Boston, he met Coretta Scott, a young singer from Alabama, and the couple wed in 1953 and settled in Montgomery, Alabama, where King became pastor of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. Montgomery became the epicenter of the struggle for civil rights, especially since the Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, a Supreme Court case in which the justices ruled unanimously that racial segregation of children in public schools was unconstitutional. On December 1, 1955, Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on the Montgomery bus and was arrested for that decision. Following her arrest, activists coordinated a bus boycott, and needing a leader, King stepped up. This would last for 381 days, causing an economic strain on public transport and downtown businesses. After being arrested for his involvement in the Birmingham Campaign of 1963, in which activists used many methods of protest, including boycotts, sit-ins, and marches, the letter from Birmingham jail is an open letter written on April 16, 1963 by King during his time in jail. Sticking to his beliefs, the letter defends the strategy of nonviolent resistance to racism. It states that people have a moral responsibility to rebel against unjust.
This idea, and is very much influenced by Gandhi's passive resistance methods and the use of nonviolence to protest unjust laws. This way, he called people to action, and they created such hardships for those in authority that they had to actually sit down and negotiate and confront the issue. And specifically with Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, the issue of blacks and discrimination and violence that had been put against them for quite some time in history.
Later that year, Martin Luther King Jr. worked with multiple civil rights activists and religious groups to organize the March on Washington. The goal of it was to shed some light on the injustices of African Americans continue to face across the country. Held on August 28th and attended by some 200,000 to 300,000 attendees, about 70 to 80% were African American. This march ranked as one of the largest political rallies for human rights ever. This political event was a major gateway to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Concluding the March on Washington was the I Have a Dream speech, one of his most important and famous addresses. It was a call for peace and equality in his vision of a future that many consider a masterpiece of rhetoric. This nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. The speech and the march cemented King's reputation at home and abroad. He was soon awarded with praise by being named Man of the Year by Time magazine, and in 1964 became the youngest person to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. That August, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act, which allowed African Americans to vote.
Many movements for change have a visionary leader, and Martin Luther King Jr. certainly was a visionary leader, and he also spoke of love and social justice, and he so eloquently in his speeches moved people to action, and I think people admire. Of course, today he still inspires people to follow through and to actually carry out those ideas that he was advocating for in terms of social justice and for all people, all blacks and whites, to be treated equally in American society.